For someone who doesn't like math, I love statistics. So this, what you're looking at now, this book tracker, was made by Allie from Hardback Hoarder, the YouTube channel. She made this the last few years, and this is the most updated version she did last year. She did not do a new one for this year, but she did kind of walk you through it in a YouTube video. I love this. This has been one of the best things I've ever used. She has all of this kind of information about what you can change. If something's not serving you, then you need to change it. I deleted a couple of the tabs at the bottom here because I don't own them, and some of them I just like the idea of, but I didn't actually use. But I just want to use this to kind of show you what the stats were for this year in another form. When you go to books read, you have all these different options. The only thing I changed on books read was I moved to keep the titles permanently there so I can see them even if I'm scrolling to the side, because I want to be able to see what the title is and remember what it is and not have it get lost in the left-hand side of the screen. But anyway, this shows all that I read, all the different genres and things, and it shows that I read 135 total books, which is true. My last one was Everything's Eventual, and I finished that one on New Year's Eve. But I want to look at my yearly stats, and I haven't really looked at this yet, so this is going to be interesting. You can track a lot of different things using this tracker, and if you know all the different things to look up, it's very helpful. My total pages read at the end of the year was 41,451, which is great. I have a goal of 30,000 this year. I think I'm going to reach that. That's cool. I listened for almost 300 hours, 257 hours. I acquired 40 books. That's funny. There's a books bought and sold you can see down here. I stopped tracking that in April because it was embarrassing. So books acquired, library checkouts, I also kind of stopped checking on those, even though I was using the library a lot, especially for audiobooks. A total books read of 135, and rereads, yes, I did reread 7 books. The owned versus read and unread isn't quite, I don't know if I trust that statistic. And then, I really like the book, the number of books I read. I had a feeling that January was going to be my best month. Last January, I did not go back to school until January 20th. So I had like the entire month of January to read, and I absorbed so many books in that time. So I knew January was going to be good. My next highest reading month was July, which also makes sense because that was kind of my only non-school month. And then I did really bad in August and October. Those were busy months for me with school starting. I am shocked at December. I thought I did a better job of December books, but I guess I didn't. But I mean, 8 is still good, but it's just when you look at how many I read in some of the other months, it's kind of embarrassing. I don't think I read as many audiobooks this December is why. You can see, yeah, the little spikes in the graph here where it like fell off or it improved. That was pretty cool. A really nice split of audio, ebook, and physical. We can see the graph here, and we can see these numbers over here. We have 52, 42, and 41, which is pretty neat. I did try to keep one going at a time. I think that's why that's so even, is I was at all times pretty much reading 3 books. I wanted to have a Kindle in my pocketbook to be able to read. I had a book at home I could read, and I had audio I could listen to in the car. So that's probably why that breakdown is so evenly spaced. It's obviously more for audio, and the reason being is that it's easier to listen to that for me. It's easier to throw on an audiobook to drive to and from work than it is to try to read on your Kindle, obviously. I read more adult books than anything else, which again, given the fact that I ran through the entirety of the Ice Planet Barbarian series, that should shock nobody. So I read 76 adult books. I only read 2 children's books and 2 middle grade, 5 new adult. And new adult, young adult, I had a hard time classifying some because I classified stuff as new adult that I don't think is actually new adult. Like I think Firekeeper's Daughter is registered as like YA, and that's definitely new adult. That's what I call it. Just because of the subject matter and the fact that she's graduated. I don't think she doesn't count as YA anymore, but we can fight about it. So this is what the pie chart looks like for that. The stat for middle grade, I just finished my first book of the year, and it's The Girl Who Drank the Moon, and it reminded me that middle grade is amazing. So I'm going to be looking for some more middle grade to read. If anyone has any suggestions, I would love to hear it. I already know a bunch that I'd like to look up. That was one of them, but I'm remembering now that I love middle grade. So own voices, I had a total read of 135, and then out of those, own voices, there were only 33. And that one was hard because some, even with good representation, they aren't writing from an own voices perspective. And I think there is some debate on whether something can be own voices or just diverse, and what it should be classified as. But I basically counted own voices as, does that author have the experience to write on that topic that we know of? So that number actually probably could be higher. And I read the most books from my owned library, which is fantastic. We love to see my owned books number go up. I only read 6 from NetGalley because, again, I kind of stopped reading from NetGalley. 33 were from the library. They were some form of library book. And then 27 were Kindle Unlimited. I have been using that Kindle Unlimited subscription. Let me tell you, that got me through this summer. And Libro FM too, that was the only audio system I was using for a while. Now I have 3 different apps that I kind of go from. And this is what that pie chart looks like. I didn't really track publication. Library books read versus unread. Again, I stopped tracking that in like May. It just wasn't worth it to me. And then this is something you could track individually: companion novels, whether it was a series, a standalone, or an unknown. I read the most of standalones and parts of series, but I did read quite a few companion novels and some that I wasn't sure, I didn't know yet. And some of those could go back and probably change because, like, I don't have My Heart is a Chainsaw written as being part of a series because it wasn't when I added it, and then it was announced that it was. So I read the most of standalone, which is pretty interesting. Let's go back up here and look at these more like broad stats we have about star ratings. So this is my star ratings. Like I said, I had a really good reading year. So the fact that I have so many books 4 stars and up is really nice to see. I really enjoy that. 4 stars is a really good review for me. That's not even like an average, that's above average, and I had 57 of those. You see how I didn't have any like 2 and 1 star, even though, again, thinking back, some of the books I read, I should have been less generous and should have made them like 2 and 1 stars. But we're not going to have to worry about that. But like I said, good reading year, lots of good new favorites. I'm pretty happy with it. My average rating was a 4.1. That makes sense to me. These are my genres read. And again, this is a weird pie chart because some of these could easily be changed if we just had a conversation and like argued about it. And I do want to slide over and see if we can get subgenres at the same time, because you do one genre and then a second. And so the one I read the most of is romance. Thank you, Ice Planet Barbarians. I read a lot of romance. And second was fantasy. I always say I'm not a fantasy reader, and I'm not. I don't pick up those like tomes, like the 1,000-page books about like a fantasy series in a fantasy land, but like casual fantasy, I'm actually pretty quick to pick up. I have a lot of thrillers on here, which is shocking. I usually don't have that many thrillers. And 14 contemporary. I did read a lot more contemporary YA and things this year. I'm not happy with how few horror books I read. I need to do better with that in the next year. And I did good with graphic novels. I did 9 graphic novels. And then we have all our little subgenres here. So literary fiction, romance, sci-fi. Look how big the sci-fi and romance sections are. So romance is not only the biggest section, it's also the biggest subsection. So that kind of says something. But these are my stats. If you are nosy and want to look closer, you can pause the video and look. All right, these are author stats. Again, this one gets kind of confusing, and I would have preferred, and I would have liked a way to track sexualities as well, just not like because statistics, but just for the own voices section. It feels like you should have different sexualities represented as well. I did have the most of she, her, which is impressive. And then a bunch that I didn't know. There are people who write under pen names and I don't assume, and I just put that as an unknown person. Author's race, I read the most of white folks. And I think that's something to be said about the romance genre that I picked up and the romance books that I was picking up. And unknown, 25. So yeah, there were quite a few that I just didn't know and I couldn't find out either way. And I might not have marked it. I might have forgotten to mark this on some of them. I did a lot of Asian books because I did the Asian Readathon in May, and it just seemed to be a trend that I picked up. And then author status, I read a lot of debut novels, but I also read a lot of new authors entirely, and that was fun. I discovered a bunch of new authors that I'm going to read again. And I did read a bunch of people again. Like this is the second or third time I've read from them. So that's fun. But that's just my sort of monthly stats. That's my yearly stats. Fun thing to kind of look at. I'm not going to go through my monthly stats. I feel like that'll make me depressed. But let's look at readathons, because I want to kind of talk about readathons. I didn't do a lot of these because I just didn't have time once I started teaching to do any kind of committed reading challenges. The only thing I would have done is something in the fall for like Halloween, but no one ever really did one. And if they did, I didn't hear about it quick enough. But this is what I read for the Buzzwordathon in 2021. And you see, you do the TBR books, so the book you're trying to read versus the book that you actually read. And I'm pretty sure there's only one. Yeah, there's only one that I didn't read the book that I set out to read. So in January, I read Where Dreams Descend for Dream. February was A Color, so I read The Yellow Wallpaper because I taught that. March was A Wrinkle in Time. April was space or galaxy themed words. I read Girl Made of Stars. May was Home or House. I read Home Fire, which was really good. That could have easily been a favorite of the year. June, A Name or a Title. I finally read The Cruel Prince. July, for last, I was wanting to read The Last True Poets of the Sea, but I needed an audiobook, so I picked up The Last Thing He Told Me. August, I needed a time of day, so I did The Bear and the Nightingale because it has the word night. September was dark. I had a hard time doing this one in time. I almost didn't finish it. I know that seems ridiculous. It's like, okay, it's September 10th. You clearly have plenty of time, but yet this is supposed to be the first week, and it wasn't the first week. But anyway, I read Dark Matter. It was very good. October, I read Punching the Air for Elements, Air. November was The Word Lost. Well, Gregory Maguire has a book called Lost. I had the audiobook of it, so I read Lost. And for December, A Month, Day, or Season, I read A Christmas Carol, Christmas Season. So yeah, that was what I read for Buzzwordathon. I've already done a video recap of the Asian readathon. There were not 7 of those, so there's just 2 blanks here, but I did complete this. I did read, I think, all the books I intended to read. Yes. And I had a bunch of books that would have worked for many of these categories. But if you want to see me break down the Asian readathon, I did a full video on that in May. I found some really good books that way. A lot of these made it into my favorites and into my recommended audiobooks. But that's going to be it. Again, if you want to look this up, I will try to find a link to the video about this in, I will try to find a link to it and put it in my video description so you can make a copy and make one for this year. It's still early in the year you can track your reading. And there's some other tabs, and you kind of do with what you want. You get rid of what does not serve you. It is a really great thing to do. Feel free to tip her because this is some work. Look at all this effort. It was a godsend to me. Like I said, I love statistics, even though I hate math and I hate tracking things. It is really nice to have this kind of all-in-one place tool that I don't have to do the math myself. But anyway, let me know if you've got some fun stats you want to share. And like I said, if you've got any middle grade to recommend, because I think I'm going to be on a middle grade kick for a while. And that is it. Bye.